Hi, I'm Tommy Andrews. Along with Ed Barber and his Blues and Roots Ensemble, I'm here to help you learn the music of Charles Mingus and use his compositions as a base from which you can develop your improvising skills. Now we're going to be talking about a tune called Nostalgia in Times Square today. If you don't know the melody for this tune, it's definitely worth you heading over to Ed's video where he's going to teach you the melody, and then come back to this video because we're going to be talking about starting on our journey towards improvising and creating our own solos. Go learn the melody and then come back and join us here later. For some, improvising can feel quite daunting, especially when you've only just started looking into the world of jazz and soloing. So a really good way of getting started out is to use the melody that we've been given and start to develop that as part of our solo, putting our own spin on it in a way. In fact, Mingus's compositions are so full of character, they're so individual, that using the melody as a basis for our solos is a really good way of staying true to the spirit of the music. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the melody that Mingus has given us and start to twist it around, put our own spin on it, add some notes here, change some rhythms there, and that way we can start to move on and develop into our own ideas while staying true to the composition. Another advantage of referencing the melody like this is that it allows our other band members to hook up with us. And by that I mean they can start to interact with what we're playing a bit easier because they already know the melodic material. We've already played it at the beginning of the tune. So if you start referencing little bits of the tune, they might start to join in, again rhythmically or melodically. And this really stays true to the spirit of Mingus's love for the New Orleans tradition of jazz, where collective improvising was one of the key factors. Also, the melody creates its own space. After the first phrase and the second phrase, there's a little bit of space at the end there, and that allows a bit of breathing room for other members of the band to interject and add their own ideas. So using the melody like this on any tune in your improvising is a really surefire way of getting your other band members involved in your solo. Now that we've learnt how to directly reference the melody as our starting point, now it's time to maybe start venturing a bit further out our comfort zone, and instead of directly referencing the notes themselves, let's take the ideas and the approach that Mingus has for the tune and use that essence of the tune instead of directly using the notes. So when we look at the first 8 bars of the tune, we notice, and Ed said this before, we notice that it's based on something called the minor pentatonic scale. So if we already know that scale, and you should do from Ed's video if you were listening, if we already know that scale, so this is a concert F minor pentatonic, what we're going to do is we're going to base our improvising upon this scale. So we're taking the essence of the tune now, not the tune itself, and we're going to base our improvising on the F minor pentatonic scale. So let's give that a go. Let's look at the melody again. What we notice is that following the blues tradition, Mingus uses an AAB structure. And by that I mean the melody of the first 4 bars and the second 4 bars are basically the same, a little bit different. So we have A, and then he answers those phrases with a B phrase for the last 4 bars. We tend to refer to these as a question, and an answer. So we're not going to directly reference the melody again, but we're going to take the essence of that AAB phrasing and use it in our solo. So what I'd like you to try is improvising an A phrase, trying to repeat it or imitate it as closely as possible, and then coming up with a different B phrase which kind of answers the questions you've created. One tip I have for you here is to try and play quite simply over the A section, because whatever you play in the first 4 bars, you have to remember and play again for the second 4 bars. So if you go totally crazy and shred all over the first 8 bars, it's going to be quite hard to remember what you're doing. Anyway, here's an example, and then give it a go yourself. Another approach that we can take, which is quite traditional in regards to the blues, is to start blurring the lines between major and minor. Now, at the time in New Orleans where blues and work songs were being sung, it wasn't necessarily so much a scale like we like to think of in the West, something we call the blues scale. It was more of a feeling, and it was more of like a blurring between the notes. And the usual notes that we try and do this with are the thirds and the fifths. So the minor third and the major third, and the 5 or the 5th and the flat 5 or flat 5th. So if we take our minor pentatonic scale that we've learned before, what we're going to do to our third, which is the second note of the scale, is we're going to raise that by a semitone. And then to our 5th note, which is the 4th note of the pentatonic scale, we're going to lower that by a semitone. So we get this note. So with the flattened 5th and the major 3rd in addition, what we can do is start to blur the lines between major and minor and create a really bluesy sound. Have a listen. Great stuff. So hopefully today you've learnt how you can use the melody as a tool for venturing further out of your comfort zone and start to enter the world of improvising. So we used the tune as a base for our improvising, changing the rhythm, changing the melody here and there. We took some of the essence of the melody that Mingus wrote. So we took the minor pentatonic scale and we put that to good use. We took the AAB structure and we used that to base our improvisation on. And also we then started to create a more bluesy sound by blurring the lines between major and minor, using the third and the fifth. Now, if you want to listen to any more Mingus, Ed, I think, suggested the Blues and Roots album in the last video, which is fantastic. Another Mingus album that I love is called Mingus and it's got some of his real kind of big hit compositions on there. One of the first ones I ever heard was called Fables of Phorbus, and that's on there. It's a fantastic composition. There's loads of others on there, and hopefully you'll hear some of the techniques that we've been doing today, like the collective improvising, using the minor pentatonic, using the AAB structure on some of the blues tunes, and hopefully some of that stuff will come out on that record as well. Anyway, be sure to follow the Blues and Roots Ensemble on social media, and hopefully very soon we'll be coming to a venue near you, and you can come and see us play. Anyway, thanks for listening, and see you very soon.